Hey everybody, I'm Greene, and today I'm going to be reviewing the game one subtitle away from being a Square Enix title. That's right, Horizon Zero Dawn: The Frozen Wilds. As you may or may not know, I was kind of critical over the Zero Dawn base game, and most of that criticism carries over to this DLC chapter. A few things that I took issue with in Zero Dawn were fixed in the Frozen Wilds, but if you want a quick 7-word review of this, here it is. More of the same, but with snow. It being the same game as before isn't entirely a bad thing. It's also not much of a surprise given that this is a DLC chapter and not a sequel, but I mean, the issues that weren't addressed are glaring and frustrating. And so with that tantalizing hook, let's jump in. The Frozen Wilds takes place in the Banuk territory known as the Cut. As the name implies, the Cut is a harsh mountainous region covered in a thick layer of snow and ice. You might remember the Banuk from their collectible figurines from the base game, and not so much from them ever appearing. I mean, the way the figurines were treated in the base game made me think that all the Banuk had died out, but apparently that's not the case, so I guess if any of them want some disappointing game rewards, they can toss 12 or so of their least favorite figurines in a bag and go nuts with it down south. But unlike most of the other tribes in Horizon, the Banuk are actually pretty awesome. Yes, I still look at all the technology around them as stuff spawned from a deity, but aside from that, they're basically D&D style barbarians. Nothing other than the hunt and survival matters. Unfortunately, all of this also fits into Horizon's overall storytelling problems. More on that in a minute. This is still the prettiest damn game you've ever seen, now made prettier with the incredible snow effects that Horizon loves to show off and leave my poor PS4 roaring like a jet turbine for hours at a time. I'm not bullshitting you here, I'm not bullshitting you here. The snow is almost worth the price of admission alone. Running, diving, sliding, and riding across the snow all deforms it differently, and this is the shocking part, it stays deformed for way longer than we have any right to expect. It's not permanent. For instance, I was able to walk back up a hill I slid down and follow my tracks, complete with the underlying grass poking up through the snow. Even things you wouldn't expect to leave a trail, like the cable hanging off of a Ravager's disc cannon. Basically, if it hits the snow reacts. This is really, really amazing stuff, and I'm still over here playing in a paltry 1080p, while you 4K HDR folks are in for a hell of a treat. So snow aside, what I'm most excited about is how Guerrilla fixed 2 of my 4 biggest issues with Horizon. Those being the scarcity of health items, and being able to pick shit up while on a mount. Healing items are much, much more common than they were before. At the very least, I never felt like I needed to run around and farm for health. There are always plenty of medicinal plants on my way to each objective. A big part of why hunting for healing plants is no longer annoying is because with one measly skill point, Aloy can now gather items while mounted. Adding that in conjunction with the increase of health plants made riding a mount something I actually do now. It was never worth the aggravation to ride my mount for 20 feet to pick up a plant that looks medicinal, but is actually just another goddamn fire kiln room. As with anything, the system isn't perfect. Mounts can be difficult to position in just that way you need in order to be able to grab the plant. I mean, all told though, the good far outweighs the bad here. This next point I'm about to make has no basis in actual fact, since I haven't been able to find any developer commentary on it, but I think that in exchange for more plentiful healing items, we got some crazy difficult machines up in the Banuk region. My reasoning for this change may be wild speculation, but the fact is, machines in the north are more difficult than their southern variants. They're more aggressive, they have more health, and they deal more damage. And when you throw in the 2 new machines, the Frost and Fire Claws, into the mix, it makes for a lot of intense and difficult and just absurdly fun machine fighting. Like the corrupted machines in the south, the machines in the north are also being controlled by an unknown AI, but it's purple this time, and Aloy has to get to the bottom of it. And that's where the problems start, because Horizon still has a story problem. Aloy's entire motivation for exploring the Cut is, ready for it? Curiosity. Curiosity both of the strange machines in the north and of Silence's past, which Aloy believes, the truth of which lies in the Cut. I mean, if we're to believe that Aloy would suspend saving the world for a completely unrelated excursion, at least give us a good reason. Hell, any reason aside from Aloy more or less yelling, "Squirrel!" and running after it. And as in the base game, our red-headed protagonist has just no depth whatsoever. Honestly, it was hard to keep myself involved in the story because we're just never given a reason to care about any of these people. It gives us a few nice character moments from newcomers Aurea and Averting, but as before, the audio logs tell a much more interesting story than what we're given to play through. I would still rather play through a game based on the audio logs. Horizon's story problems, I think, stem from them focusing too much on world building. Don't get me wrong, Guerrilla has done an amazing job creating this world with different tribes and different customs and rituals, and they did it all with a really kick-ass sci-fi twist. But the issue here is that they can't seem to tell any compelling stories inside of their meticulously crafted world. Aloy is too much of a Mary Sue to be interesting, which makes sense coming from a gameplay perspective. Who wants to play as someone who sucks at stuff? But come on, give us something, anything that works against her and is at least, I don't know, mildly effective. A good or even halfway decent villain would go a long way to assuage my feelings on this. As she stands now, she has no equal, and that makes her entire character as stale as the buns at Arby's. Also unchanged from the base game is the camera. Before it wasn't too terrible, at least didn't kill you because you're mostly operating in open spaces, and it generally knew what to do when inside an enclosed space like a cauldron, because, I mean, it was all designed around this shit. But in the mountains, with the big trees and the boulders and, I don't know, the mountains all over the place, the camera just takes a shit, man. It never knows what it's doing, except for when it's actively trying to disorient you, and it gets jammed up against everything, often. I know it's a lot to ask for in a DLC package, but the camera was and is bad enough to warrant addressing. Also, Aloy's facial animation is still off. Specifically, the lip syncing. Everyone she talks to is done really well. Even their facial hair looks better, which was another complaint of mine from Zero Dawn. But Aloy, for the most part, is still just kind of awkwardly moving her mouth in ways that should not produce the sound that she's making. It's honestly becoming distracting to the point where I can't focus on anything other than her bad lip sync. Is this a minor problem? Yes, but it is immersion breaking, which means it gets a mention. So yeah, I'm happy with the direction the series is going overall, and while Guerrilla has the gameplay and world building down pat, they still have some work to do for the inevitable sequel, Horizon 2 Dawn Harder. As hard as I am on Horizon, I still think it's good. And the Frozen Wilds is a great return to it, please don't get me wrong. But it is by no means perfect, and in my opinion could use more stuff to do other than robot shooting and collectible nabbing, as fun as those things are. Now, I finished the story and most of the side quests in about 15-ish hours, except for I didn't do collectibles other than what I just kind of stumbled across, because who's got time for that? But that brings us now to my opinion, or verdict, or whatever you would like to call it. Name it something, I don't care. And my opinion, or verdict, or whatever, is this. Horizon is more fun to play than it is to experience, but if you liked Zero Dawn, you'll like the Frozen Wilds. Likewise, if you hated Zero Dawn, you'll hate the Frozen Wilds. It really is just more of the same, but with snow. Did you like my review? I hope you did. I mean, otherwise I don't know if you would have watched it to this point, but alright. I mean, even if you hated me, go ahead. Like and subscribe, or whatever. Do what you gotta do, man. Just live your life. And thanks for watching, guys. It really means a lot. I mean that from deep down in the pit of my soul. Like, I appreciate you. Just know that. Let that get you through the day. That some random fucking dude on the internet appreciates you.
So much for being careful.